Ethereum, Bitcoin, and the rest of the cryptocurrency market appears like it might be eyeing up a dump to the downside. Every news article is telling you that that's about to happen. But as we know with the news, that can't always be relied upon because there's a lot of people with other vested interests trying to push us in different directions. Alright guys, hope you're having a great day. In today's episode, we're going to look at one big piece of Ethereum news as well as the Ethereum charts and Bitcoin charts to see what is happening over there. So without further ado, let's jump into that first piece of Ethereum news. Guys, as you saw from the picture on the way in, every minute $12,000 of Ethereum is being burned. Now, what does that mean for us as Ethereum holders? Obviously, the amount of supply, etc., is going down. But at the moment, we are still an inflationary asset, and it won't be until sort of 2022 when it will really take effect, and the number of ETH being burned will be more than the number of ETH being mined. Now, $230 million lost in Ethereum in 12 days isn't quite as much as this man Bill Huang, who lost $20 billion in a day. So if you're feeling like you might be losing a bit of cash, then take a moment for this guy who has probably had it worse than you. Okay, so in terms of this story, Ethereum miners are watching their Ether go up in smoke. Just like the network intended, Bitcoin News reported that changes introduced by the London hard fork have resulted in more than $12,000 worth of Ethereum being destroyed every minute. The report cited a June analyst dashboard called the Ethereum After 1559 that has been tracking the amount of Ether burned after London went live on the 5th of August. Bitcoin News says that on the 22nd of August, 73,784 Ethereum to the value of approximately $230 million has already been destroyed. Obviously, this is quite exciting. We've also got tomorrow a big options expiry happening on Ethereum, which might mean at the moment that we are seeing a little bit slow in terms of the movement as people are kind of wary of what might happen tomorrow. The majority of call options are between around $3,000 and $3,200. So the bears will be trying to push Ethereum down below $2,900. However, if we're able to stay above $3,000, a lot of contracts will close, which is obviously a good thing for Ethereum. So do expect that potentially we might see some volatility. That will happen at around 8 a.m. UTC. So make sure that you are prepared for that in terms of stop losses, etc. if you're day trading. And if you see some big swings happening, etc., that you don't act on impulse and you're aware of what is happening. Jumping over to Ethereum on the daily chart, we still remain in this ascending wedge pattern. Although we have taken a drop of approximately 10% in the last few days, after seeing this recent high developing back on the 23rd of August that hit around $3,400, we still haven't been able to break above those $3,400 level and push back to the upside. And one thing I'm very interested in right now is this wick, which, you know, seems maybe insignificant in terms of the size of the chart, etc. But what we're seeing right now is higher lows getting put in, and this is obviously on the daily chart. Things could change. But as long as we are staying, we did dip down to $3,060. We can see some support developing at these levels at around the $3,050 level, as we see back then was significant, and now finding it again. And if Ethereum is able to have a close above this, it doesn't mean we're necessarily out of the woods, but it is much more positive potentially for the Ethereum price. Now, jumping down onto the 15-minute chart, you can see that within the larger wedge, we've actually got a smaller falling wedge, which, as we know, it tends to be a bullish pattern, and we have dabbled around at this level, and things are looking quite precarious right now. We haven't seen a huge amount of volume, which indicates that when this came back down through, this wasn't actually a breakout. So that's always something we're going to look for. If we're looking for breakouts, we need to see a significant amount of volume coming with it, but we've failed to get any of that, which is showing that actually there's not a significant amount of selling pressure coming in right now, and the bulls still, until breaking significantly lower than this, have control. So things are obviously still hanging very much in the balance. If we are able to start putting in some higher highs and, as I said, have a daily close above this line, then we will be then to look to see whether we can break beyond this pattern, which is around the $3,200 level. And if we can break beyond the 3,200, obviously we then need to push up to here. So Ethereum obviously has a lot of work to do if we are able to push back up and start challenging towards all-time highs again. But if we are to take a significant drop out of here, what would our bearish price targets be in the short term? Jumping onto the 1 hour, we would take the height of this pattern here, and from a potential breakout position, as you can see, guys, almost the worst case scenario I see happening for Ethereum would be down at around the $2,700 level, which, as we can see back previously, provided us with some significant resistance on the 1st of August. And then on the way back through, we found a bit of resistance again, bouncing back through, eventually flipping into support around the 7th of August. And then we've kind of been back up through ever since. Now, it doesn't mean if we do have a breakout, we have to come all the way down to 2,700. There's also the potential that if we look at these levels previously, we could just take a dip to around the $2,900 level and then see perhaps another push to the upside, but potentially a good buying opportunity if we do take a dip to $2,900, $2,700. If we are able, however, to turn things around and actually move back towards the upside of this around the $3,350, then that would potentially see us breaking out to a bullish price target of around $3,750, which is obviously in line with the next key Fibonacci level. So that would be kind of a potential I would be looking at. And things are also hanging in the balance over on Bitcoin. But before we look at that, I want to just bring your attention to something else. Something else for concern at the moment. If we look at this RSI, we are seeing that the price or the tops here are decreasing quite heavily. And if we look at the prices back at the top, this is around the 20th of August, we have actually been going up in price. And overall, although we are down at the moment, we have been kind of moving fairly statically, and yet we're seeing the buyers becoming a bit weaker, which is obviously a slight alarm bell for us. And this is called a bearish divergence, which does often indicate that the market might be due a turnaround. We've also got, if we look at this, some form of a double top happening at the moment. So be very cautious at the moment. If you're looking to perhaps trade this as a bounce and back to the upside, personally, I'll be waiting to see whether we can return back to these levels before I look at putting in any sort of a long position. If we do take a drop at the bottom of this, then I might be looking to short it as well. Jumping over to the Bitcoin chart, we can see something very similar developing. We've got this large orange rising wedge pattern, which does tend to be a bearish pattern. However, within this rising wedge, we've also got this smaller wedge here, which is the yellow pattern. And as you can see, pretty much on the apex of where these two lines cross, Bitcoin is sitting fairly statically there at the moment. So it depends. If we can look down the RSI, we can see that it's approaching oversold levels, which is obviously a bullish thing for Bitcoin. However, I think with regards to Bitcoin, if we don't have a break to the downside now, we may well come up to this level at around the $51,500 level, where we then may see a bit of a cool off, because ultimately for it to break beyond the top level of this pattern, it's going to need some significant buying pressure. So literally, guys, as I speak, things are looking quite precarious for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, if it can, as I mentioned, have a close above those lines and we can start getting some buying pressure back in, then that could potentially save us and we could push to higher levels. However, a cool off down to 2,700 wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing. And if we do continue to climb, there will eventually be some sort of cool off, and the bigger the climb, the larger the cool off will eventually get. However, when I see a lot of negative sentiment in the market, I do feel that that might be a manipulation, trying to get people to sell off their crypto, trying to create some liquidity for more buyers before potentially taking the next push. Now, obviously, that's my own ideas of how I've sort of started to see things work. So if you want to go and do your own research, make sure you do that before you make any purchases. Trading crypto is risky and you can lose lots of money. So make sure you're very careful with all of your money. Guys, make sure you hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe to be kept up to date with all of the latest happening in Ethereum. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another video. Bye-bye.